Live from historic Leimert Park in Los Angeles, California, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm so glad to see you and me back in stride again. Before we get started with today's show, let me invite you to follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The Real Tavis Smiley and get updates on X, that's formerly Twitter, at Tavis Smiley. By the way, should you miss any part of today's program or want to catch up on previous shows, you can always visit thetavissmileyshow.com. That's thetavissmileyshow.com, or wherever you get your podcast, and listen to the Tavis Smiley podcast version of this live program at your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, Quentin James, founder and president of the Collective PAC, which works to fix the challenge of underrepresentation of the black community in elected seats of power all across the nation. In fact, just minutes ago, in fact, not even an hour yet, they announced a $4 million effort, they being the Collective PAC, a $4 million effort to mobilize black male voters. That news is out today, so we'll talk to Quentin James about that timely. He's being on the show today, so we'll talk about that with him at the top of hour two. $4 million to get these brothers out to vote. On the B side of hour two, Christopher Sebastian Parker is back with us today. More Kamala Harris black polling data in this close and uncertain presidential race. Christopher Sebastian Parker in studio today on the B side of hour two. In our third hour.
You're done now. Toast. The tiny wins.
Hey, man, I gave you that. Come on, one more. Come on.
I know you're hurting. I know how close you two were. I'm here if you need to talk.
Our thoughts go out to the family of star basketball player Natani Jackson, who has passed away at 18 years old.
With Natani gone, they think they're gonna walk all over us.
Cheska, I consider one of your closest rivals.
Cheska who?
You really think we can win without him?
I'm not about to give up on the season. Are you guys with me?
I'm not your coach.
Baby God's on the court, but they're still just kids. It's time to rely on our traditions. You descend from warriors. We're gonna go back to the old ways.
What if we call the plays in non-ball?
We're gonna do what we do best. Res ball.
I lost it, though.
Let's win this title. For you, for me, but most of all, for the Reds.
Let's do this.
Let me see your hands in the air. In the air. In the air.
Comedian and activist Dallas Goldtooth joins us to talk about LeBron James's new Netflix film called Res Ball, about a high school basketball team rich in Native American heritage facing its greatest challenge. After the loss of their star player, the team must unite like never before to keep their dreams of winning the state championship alive. I see you, King James. Who doesn't love an underdog story? Brought to you by LeBron James. I suspect we'll also talk to Dallas Goldtooth about the mainstream success of Reservation Dogs and his work as a Standing Rock protester in our third hour today. But in this first hour today, two more conversations on the B side of this hour. Less than a month out from Election Day, a conversation about the strength of Kamala's coalition with the political director for the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, Brencia Berry. But we commence today's show in dialogue with the community activist who is in line to win Barbara Lee's congressional seat in Oakland, Latifah Simon. But first, here's a taste of Latifah speaking at the DNC in Chicago back in August.
After working with Kamala Harris day in and day out for 5 years to create programs that supported young people to get out of the criminal justice system once and for all with good jobs, with opportunity. She wanted to get to the root cause of a broken criminal justice system. I saw her chip away. She came early and she left late every single day because you know, like those mothers, like those sexual assault survivors, when she goes into that Oval Office, when she goes into that Oval Office, I guarantee you she will take all of us with her. All of us. The single mothers, the disabled veterans, the low-income folks who are dying to survive, the immigrants who are trying to work towards the promise of America. She will take us all. The farm workers, she will take us all with her.
Barbara Lee has left some big shoes to fill, but as you can tell, and many of you saw that, of course, in real time, back in August, Latifah Simon is up to the challenge. When we come forward, we'll commence our conversation with Latifah Simon on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Standing up for everyday Americans is at the very foundation of who Kamala Harris is. Raised in a middle-class home by a working mother who instilled in her a passion for justice and equality. That's why when Kamala Harris became district attorney, she stood up for our kids, keeping them safe by prosecuting sex offenders. She also pioneered a program to give nonviolent drug offenders a second chance. As president, Kamala Harris will continue the fight for everyday Americans. She's already lowered the cost of your health insurance and medications. Insulin is now capped at $35 for seniors. But there's more to do because mortgages, rents, groceries, and utility bills are still too high. Harris's plan to fix it? Build more homes to lower prices and make the wealthy and billionaires pay their fair share so we get a break. All her life, Kamala Harris has been standing up for us. And she doesn't plan to stop anytime soon.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for president.
And that chill in the air means one thing. It's truck season!
Just 5 more minutes.
No snoozing. You've got so much to do. So do it all in a Chevy Colorado or Silverado, including the HD or class-leading 440-mile range of the Silverado EV.
Wait, are you talking?
Yes! Picture it. Work, play, hauling gear, off-roading. A Chevy truck can take whatever you can throw at it, including tailgating in an actual tailgate!
I mean, homecoming is just around the corner. Oh, and showing up in a new truck?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Get things done and look good doing it.
Okay, I'm up. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Without offering me a ride? That's cold.
It's Chevy truck season. Head to your local Chevy dealer and get 0% financing on all 2024 Silverado pickups when you finance with GM Financial. Chevrolet, together, let's drive.
0% APR for 36 months. Monthly payment is $27.78 for every $1,000 you finance. Example down payment 9.3%. Must finance with GM Financial. Some customers may not qualify. Not available at least in some other offers. Take me retail delivery by 10/31/24.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, this is Les Brown. I want you to go to lesbrownpowertour.com. On October the 11th, 12th, and 13th, this weekend, we will be at the Airport Marriott, teaching people the techniques and strategies on how you can begin to live your dream right now. Many people have the ability to do more, but unfortunately, they're trying to open new doors with old keys. We're going to teach you how to monetize your brilliance with one of the speakers. We have a lady who was once a gas station cashier, and she's now a billionaire, and she's going to share her knowledge. I'm going to share with you how to tell your story, how to present yourself, and how you can earn millions of dollars with your wisdom and your experiences. October the 11th, 12th, and 13th, this weekend. Go to lesbrownpowertour.com. It's going to change your life. Spread the word. Go to lesbrownpowertour.com this weekend in LA at the Marriott at the airport. This is your moment. You have something special. You have greatness in you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Helping to make you the most knowledgeable person in your circle of friends. This is Tavis Smiley.
Latifah Simon is the sister who will shortly take the seat that has belonged for many years to Barbara Lee in Oakland. And she's ready. I'm ready for her in this conversation. Just one more thing. Kamala Harris, who you heard Latifah Simon talking about a moment ago at the DNC in her fiery speech. Kamala Harris last night in a rare episode of 60 Minutes on a Monday night, not a Sunday night. Here she is talking briefly about her economic plans.
Well, one of the things is I'm going to make sure that the richest among us who can afford it pay their fair share in taxes. It is not right that teachers and nurses and firefighters are paying a higher tax rate than billionaires and the biggest corporations. And I plan on making that fair.
But we're dealing with the real world here.
But the real world includes...
How are you going to get this through Congress?
You know, when you talk quietly with a lot of folks in Congress, they know exactly what I'm talking about because their constituents know exactly what I'm talking about. Their constituents are those firefighters and teachers and nurses. Their constituents are middle-class, hardworking folks.
And Congress has shown no inclination to move in your direction.
I disagree with you.
We could argue about that, Latifah Simon, but I think the interlocutor is right about that, with all due respect to the Vice President. Congress, certainly the House, has not shown any inclination to move in lockstep with her. Come November the 6th, you will likely, we all suspect, be headed to Washington as a member of Congress. So as a part of that body, what say you about the way the House will move or not move to address the concerns she has about how to fix the economy?
Well, it's such an honor to be speaking with you, Mr. Smiley. I do expect to work so hard I've been running for now a year and a half, and on the 6th, I am hoping that the beautiful people of California's 12th District agree with me that we need to be in lockstep to take back the Congress with Hakeem Jeffries as our first black speaker. We don't get there. Mm-hmm. It's very clear to me that, what the Vice President said last night, should Congress be led by the Democratic Party, particularly by Brother Hakeem, with the Vice Speaker being Joe Neguse, who's another black man from the Midwest, we will have the majority and we will get to legislate the priorities of good, strong working class people and people of color. Like I said in my speech, disabled folks who are struggling to get a key to an apartment. We actually will be able to legislate the dreams of American people. Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to be able to join that body and do the hard work that we've all been so longing for quite some time. And taking Barbara's seat, man, those are shoes that will never be filled. But she's my mentor. She was my professor. I tell people every day, Mr. Smiley, she ran so we can walk in this movement, and I'm ready to work.
Please call me Tavis. Just call me Tavis. That works for me. I appreciate it, though. Tell me a bit more. I know this because I have a number of friends who know you. You and I are not the best of friends as yet. We'll change that in the coming. We'll change that in the coming months and years once you get there. But I have a number of friends who know you in the Bay Area, have known you for years, and speak very, very highly of you. I started checking in a year ago when you started running, and I wanted to know more about you, and so I'm glad to have you. I'm just as honored to have you on this program, Trust and Believe. But for those who don't know a bit about your backstory, tell me a little bit about Latifah Simon.
I'm sitting here in my living room, a little dark living room in the middle of Oakland, right in the smack of it. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. My parents come, by way of Arkansas and Louisiana. My grandfather came here from Louisiana in the 40s. And set up really what they call the Harlem of the West in the Fillmore district of San Francisco. He owned 8 nightclubs. Mm-hmm. Everyone from, Bessie Smith to Maya Angelou to Sly and the Family Stone, they were around the dinner table of my father when he was raised. So I grew up in culture. My parents took Shahada in their 20s as activists and organizers. So I grew up Muslim with a grandmother who loved Jesus. I, like many black people in the 80s, I saw my family, many folks in my family and in my community decimated by the war on drugs and crack cocaine. I found myself in and out of high school. I had a baby as a teenager. That little girl is 28 years old right now. She's a Howard Law graduate and actually serving the AG in D.C. right now. I'm so proud of her. But that work of growing up in the Fillmore district of San Francisco, half my family in the district that I'm representing now, I really understood the call for black people at a very early age that we had a responsibility to organize and develop self-determination for ourselves and other young people. I helped to launch an organization called the Young Women's Freedom Center, which has a vibrant office in L.A. We are in 5 cities all throughout the state, and that work was and continues to be about ensuring that black and brown young women who have been in the criminal justice system and the juvenile justice system, really survivors, children who are survivors of the drug war, have an opportunity to politicize ourselves. It's not about comportment or self-esteem. It's about power. And systems, I've been teaching this for now 30 years, are made up of people. And if we don't get an opportunity really to hold the bullhorn or sit behind the dais, we're just going to be begging people to make things change for us. So I've been working in community for years. I'm a local elected here. Transit justice has been core to my priorities in life as a transit-dependent person, as a legally blind person. And, one of the things when I ran for the BART board, which is an elected board here, was to help reform our police department. Our police department killed Oscar Grant. You all remember that.
Oh, yeah.
So the last 8 years of my life after losing my husband, who was also a journalist like yourself, to cancer, parenting 2 kids. I have a 13-year-old and a 28-year-old, leaving, after burying him bankrupt, from supporting him through his illness, which I would do again and again and again. I ran for office locally, being back on public transit. When Miss Lee asked me to think about running for this office, as she took the helm of running for the United States Senate, I, one, was honored, but knew that I had a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do to win really the respect that I had been working for 30 years in this community. And we will win. We will win. We won by 56% in a 9-person race in the primary, and I have one competitor, but I'm out working, out spending, out raising, and out knocking her. So I'm excited to serve.
Tell me a bit more. I'm just watching my time. I want to squeeze as much in as I can. Tell me a bit more about being raised Muslim. I love how you put it. I know the audience heard it. Being raised Muslim with a grandmother who loved Jesus. That's an interesting dichotomy, is it not?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. We know that Gabriel spoke to all of our prophets. We are one people collectively. And in the Black Liberation Movement, there are so many activists and organizers who sought, especially Black men, to join a movement that appeared a bit different than what they were experiencing here. My dad, before his untimely death, told me to never lose my faith in Islam, but also to respect the glory and the wisdom of my grandmother, Betty Simon, who prayed on her knees every single day. Again, the Black experience in the United States is one, again, of it's a dichotomy, but also a diaspora of belief, but all centered in faith. Kamala said something to me years ago, and, I worked for her for 5 years, but she's been my mentor for 22 years. She said, don't let the racist or the Republicans take away our centered value of faith and country. And I think about that every single day. I'm a woman of deep faith. And again, having worked for a Black woman named Kamala Harris for 5 years, working to create a program to get young men out of jail and into jobs, I'm convinced that more Black women must be in politics centered in faith, centered in promise.
Tell me more about the way you see Kamala Harris's record on the issue of criminal justice. As you well know, I'm not telling you anything you haven't heard, not just recently, but over the course of the years you've known her. There is great debate, even inside Black America, about her record on criminal justice. What's your read of it, having been there?
I mean, I worked in the district attorney's office with Kamala, and let me be just very clear. For years before I worked for her, I was one of the senior organizers in the Bay Area leading criminal justice reform efforts. I have buried young people. I have stomped the courts to make sure that our folks got out of the criminal and juvenile justice system. I've gotten hundreds of jobs and housed a lot of folks who've been coming home from jails and prisons. And when Kamala Harris asked me to come work for her, having known her and the work that she did, particularly around girls who were being trafficked in San Francisco, stopping the arrest and charging and incarceration of those girls, she convinced me. She said, either you want to keep begging law enforcement to do the right thing for our people, or you're going to come in here and help me create institutional opportunities for folks to leave this system with some dignity. First of all, in the criminal justice system, DAs don't incarcerate people. Judges remand and juries remand. It's really important that we don't fall into the misinformation campaign of white men who are so angry about this woman running for president. I created a first-of-its-kind program with Kamala to become an antidote to the failed drug war. I know what we did in that office. I know what we did, and I know the honor, really, and the prestige that she created in being one of the first elected district attorneys Black women district attorneys in this country and what she came in there to do. I would encourage people to really read the record. I was at Berkeley, and I'll stop here, just a few days ago working with some young men who had been released from San Quentin, and they're students there. They're struggling with the quote-unquote Kamala Harris record. All I did was take out my laptop and look at the data, and they admitted they had been misinformed. Yeah. So we actually need to speak truth in these moments. This is a woman who decided to come into law enforcement understanding that the system had been really written and implicated to do horrible things, and she's been trying to chip away at those narratives for years. I worked for her. I know the truth.
Let me circle back to your being raised Muslim. We, yesterday, as you know, commemorated the one-year anniversary of October 7th when Hamas attacked Israel. I've said many times, I say again, that is not the starting point for all this, as people like to make it. It's not the starting point, with all due respect to President Biden and everybody else. It ain't the starting point. I digress on that point. But it is interesting to me that you would be a Muslim in Congress at a critical moment in world history like this. How did you process your faith, that particular brand of faith, serving in Congress at such a time as this?
Like I said before, my grandmother taught me that, God likes divine order, for everything to be in order, and hopefully being able to take the seat of the Honorable Ron Dellums and the amazing, prophetic Barbara Lee. I will continue to be consistent in our politic of peace. Islam means peace. Jesus was the Prince of Peace. So, men who try to just sort of distort the word, I don't care, what direction you pray in. I believe that this war is a horrific one, and I am, again, with Jews and Muslims and Christians that, I surround myself with. We are very clear that in governance or when you're on the streets, we have to actually profess a politic of peace. One of the things that's important as we move Kamala Harris into a position of power, I am very clear that on the 6th, our folks continuously need to be in the streets. Being an organizer means to be able to push folks in power to continue to sort of lift up the moral courage and the values that we so believe in. I don't believe that if there is a Trump presidency, any of us are going to get anywhere near the Eisenhower room to convince that president, again, not to act with impunity, not to continue bombing the hell out of Gaza and Sudan. We have a choice. And to me, I lead in faith, and that faith is centered in peace and diplomacy.
I am a student of history, and I got chill bumps when you mentioned the name Ron Dellums. I considered Ron Dellums a dear friend of mine. We just lost our guest. Let's get her back right quick. I only have 3 minutes left anyway, but while we're getting her back on the line. I'm a student of history, as I said, and for those who listen every day, you sort of know that. But when I heard Latifah Simon mention Ron Dellums, I got goosebumps because I miss Ron Dellums dearly all these years later. I love Ron Dellums unapologetically, so to hear her mention the name Ron Dellums, and then Ron Dellums is succeeded by Barbara Lee. Latifah Simon is in a historic space. This is a historic seat, given what Ron Dellums did with it, what Barbara Lee did with it. You heard her mention a moment ago that if Democrats can take back the House, speaking of Black history, Hakeem Jeffries becomes the first African-American Speaker of the House. That's a lot of... I'm getting goosebumps. There's a richness to your story and the timing of it. What do you make of taking over a seat that Ron Dellums held, that Barbara Lee held, and you'd be in Congress if Democrats can pull this off when the first Black speaker wields that gavel? That's a whole lot to take in.
Let me tell you something about the power of Black leadership in California. It was Maxine Waters and the Honorable Ron Dellums and Barbara Lee and others sitting in a room planning out how, in fact, they would convince the California State Senate and the Assembly to divest from South Africa, using CalPERS as the ploy, taking those retirement investments out of an apartheid South Africa. These leaders literally changed the world. The beauty of being in the stead of Barbara Lee and Ron Dellums, the history of them being internationalists. Barbara Lee stood on the floor of Congress, 10 toes down, being very clear in the mid-'80s and the 90s that we have an obligation to fund AIDS research because Black and brown folks were dying on the streets all over the country. She was able to be very, very clear that a woman's right to choose is, in fact, a civil right, and that education in our communities was central. K through 12, community college, I can go on and on. Barbara Lee is continuously my mentor. I will take that seat. She said that she would honor me with borrowing her desk. And every single day that I'm in that office, that door will be open to our people who, like Barbara and like Mr. Ron, have ensured that our folks had access to the halls of power and to the congressional floor. I take this very seriously. This role is about freedom. It is the most democratic district in the United States with 96% registering Democrats. I got work to do.
Indeed, you do, but you are prepared, and
Yes,
that's
sir.
that's what I celebrate the most. I see too many people jumping up and running for office because of a lot of reasons, and frankly, too many people I think run these days for all the wrong reasons. But Latifah Simon has prepared herself for this moment, and I could not be more thrilled than to have had her on this program for the first time. But I assure you, not the last, so long as she takes my phone calls. Latifah Simon, good to have you on. All the best to you. We'll talk somewhere down the road, I pray.
Oh, not just down the road. Very soon, sir. Very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
Talk
great.
to you soon.
Oh, I love it. Have a great rest of the day. Just getting started. What a great way to start the show off. It's going to be a good one. You're listening, and I'm glad about it. To Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from the Black Information Network. In New Jersey, the family of a Newark cheerleader who was critically hurt after getting off of a school bus is suing the city school board for $150 million. Chiara Jones, a black senior at Newark Arts High School, was struck and seriously injured after returning from a cheerleading competition. The suit claims the bus operator was negligent. The suit seeks damages related to medical bills, lifetime nursing care, pain, and suffering. The price of everything is going up, even lottery tickets. It will soon cost more to play the Mega Millions lottery game. Starting in April, Mega Millions tickets will cost players $5 each. And that's the latest. I'm Ray Harris on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A highly important game for the Dodgers tonight in San Diego. Game 3 of their divisional round playoff series against the Padres. The intense and emotional series is tied at 1 game apiece. The Padres have all the momentum and home field advantage for the next 2 games. The Dodgers need a wake-up call from Mookie Betts. Betts is 0 for 6 in the first 2 games. He has not had a productive postseason with the Dodgers. Since the NL Championship Series in 2021, Betts is 3 for 44 at the plate. The Dodgers need Betts to turn up if they're going to win this series. The largest attendance for an HBCU football game over the weekend was Florida A&M at Alabama State. A crowd of 33,576 showed up in Montgomery for Florida A&M's 28-13 win. Florida A&M is the highest-ranked HBCU team in this week's Division I AA Top 25 poll. The Rattlers moved up 4 spots to 19th. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and LifeLock is here to elevate your protection game. Using the same simple password across all your accounts, that's risky. While updating your passwords to be more unique is a good start, true peace of mind comes with LifeLock. LifeLock doesn't just alert you to suspicious activity, but monitors for more uses of your personal info and will fix identity theft issues that arise, guaranteed, or your money back. Secure your identity today with a 30-day free trial at LifeLock.com. Use promo code NEWS. Terms apply.
We've got a lot to talk about.
I'm Reverend Gerald, the life coach. Is someone you love struggling with addiction and mental illness? Is improving your family's health important? Want to leave a legacy that your family can grow? Are you ready to enhance your perception of life experiences? Then wake up weekends at 7 a.m. with Urban Family Focus and get the wisdom, opportunity, resources, and motivation to live your best life. Join the conversation on Urban Family Focus Saturday and Sunday at 7 a.m.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Tommy! I can't wait for golf this weekend, huh, buddy? Time flies. Love you, man. Oh, don't forget your knee brace again. We aren't in college anymore.
Moments together matter, so help protect yourself from RSV. If you're 75 or older or 60 plus with a chronic condition like asthma, COPD, heart disease, or severe diabetes, you're at higher risk of landing in the hospital from RSV, and there are no prescription RSV treatments. Check eligibility and schedule your RSV vaccine at vaxassist.com. Sponsored by Pfizer.
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick. And it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower Max for steamy Vicks vapors.
Use as directed. Vapo Stick for use ages 4 and up. Vapo Shower Max use for adults only.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Conversation now, less than a month out from Election Day, about the strength of Kamala's coalition with the political director for the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, Brincia Berry, who I'm pleased to have on this program, B2, B2. We'll call her Brincia Berry. Before I get to her, though, more of Kamala's conversation last night, Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris's conversation on 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes usually on Sunday nights, but a rare special election edition of that program broadcast last night. Here is Kamala Harris talking about the border.
Been covering the border for years, and so I know this is not a problem that started with your administration.
Correct.
But there was an historic flood of undocumented immigrants coming across the border the first 3 years of your administration. As a matter of fact, arrivals quadrupled from the last year of President Trump. Was it a mistake to loosen the immigration policies as much as you did?
It's a long-standing problem. And solutions are at hand. And from day one, literally, we have been offering solutions.
What I was asking was it a mistake to kind of allow that flood to happen in the first place?
I think the policies that we have been proposing are about fixing a problem, not promoting a problem. Okay?
But the numbers did quadruple.
And the numbers today, because of what we have done, we have cut the flow of illegal immigration by half.
But should you have done that?
We have cut the flow of fentanyl by half, but we need Congress to be able to act, to actually fix the problem.
So, Brincy Barry, let me tell you what I heard right there, and I say this with all due love and respect for the vice president. But as you know, as political director for the DNC, one of the things she's been pressed on is that when she does these conversations, she hadn't done a lot. This week she's doing everything, from 60 Minutes to Howard Stern to The View to Stephen Colbert, a couple podcasts. She's out there now. But one of the rubs against her is that she doesn't directly answer questions. And I want to be fair about this. Many politicians do not. But there's a clear example. Bill pressed on that thing 3 or 4 times, and she wouldn't give him a clear answer to that question. And that, I think, is one of the things that concerns people about what happens when she sits for these conversations. That's my read of that particular question. What's your read of it?
My read is that, it is very clear that the Republicans, that Trump and J.D. Vance, when Trump said he had a concept of a plan, he meant that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the Biden-Harris administration put forth bipartisan legislation to address border security and making sure that we were giving the Department of Homeland Security the resources that they need. And it was Republicans and Trump who stopped it. He said, if we get this done, it's going to make them look good right before the election, right? And so the Republicans fell in line. Several Republicans who helped write and sponsor that legislation ended up not getting it through. So to your question about her answer, I know the vice president is, she is a former prosecutor, and she's very, very direct. And I think she's just, of it's much harder to answer those questions when you are approaching it from a humanitarian standpoint and an actual standpoint than the Republicans who just continue to spew lies and hate. And we put Trump on at the debate when it came to Springfield, Ohio, and the harm and the just quite frankly violence that has resulted in it. So it's a delicate balance, and I think that she is going to continue, like you said, having these conversations, doing these interviews, so people can hear directly from her that she does have a plan, and he has the Biden-Harris administration has taken significant steps, and we have to be clear about who has stopped progress.
I received that. I think what I was pressing toward, let me just say this, and I want to move on, make the most of the few minutes that we have here, and I'm honored to have you on the program. If I were talking and advising Kamala Harris, I've not talked to Kamala recently, but if I were talking to her, I would tell her there's one thing she has to stop doing. You have to stop skirting these questions, because people can hear that. When an interlocutor, the moderator, the host, asks you the same questions 3 or 4 times, and you still keep skirting it, that's not a good look. It's a bad thing. So here's what you do. You answer the question directly, number one, or you say, Bill, with all due respect, I don't agree with the premise of your question. Let me reframe the premise of the question and give you my response. You don't ever I train people on this. You don't ever have to ask any moderators questions on their terms. I do this every day, and it's not advice I should be giving my guests right now to not answer questions on my terms. But
I'm ready.
But I know you are. But you don't have to do that. If you don't like the premise of the question, this is free for all of y'all. If you don't like the premise of any question, say I don't like and I disagree fundamentally with the premise of your question. Let me tell you why I disagree with the premise of your question, and then I will answer it as best I can. You reframe that thing, and then you answer it. Or you answer it directly. Just don't skirt it. That's my advice to Kamala Harris, because that was a perfect example of what people say when they reference that she doesn't answer questions directly. I'm done with that. That's my free advice. Let's move on. Let me ask you how you would compare and contrast Kamala Harris's coalition. Clearly, she's done an amazing job in a very short period of time building this coalition. We will see what that coalition does on November the 5th. But how would you compare and contrast Kamala's coalition and Barack Obama's coalition?
Yeah, so there's a lot of similarities, right? I mean, to your point, what we saw immediately after she became the nominee, the thousands of people across all constituencies of all backgrounds showing up to see her speak in these historic moments. That really did channel the Obama-esque era that we haven't seen in a little while in terms of the just excitement and enthusiasm. One thing that I will say is that obviously the Democratic Party is a big tent, and there are aspects of her identity that she carries that are different from President Obama's, and I think that is only a strength to her. Right? She is from AAPI. She is half AA and HPI, and we've seen amazing excitement from the South Asian community and just AA and HPI voters in general. And then we also see women, right, at this historic moment when in 2022, Roe v. Wade was no longer the law of the land. She got out front and was strong in her response and has been strong ever since. And so what we've seen is all of these various calls of Win with Black women and the white dudes for Kamala and just that level of engagement. I have seen people be more intentional from those coalitions. We saw what happened in 2016 in turnout and the various constituencies that didn't necessarily show up to vote for Secretary Clinton that we assumed would, right? But that does not seem to be the case this time around. Mm-hmm. People are organizing, people are mobilizing, and we as the party and the campaign are doing the work every single day to ask for every single person's vote, whether it's people who are living in rural areas or people who are of all backgrounds. Mm-hmm. We're also seeing a lot of Republicans coming out in support of the vice president, and we're just really, really amplifying all of that enthusiasm.
When we come forward, speaking of amplifying that enthusiasm, I want to ask directly how the DNC, it's one thing to talk to the campaign. I've done that. We'll do that again. It's nothing to talk to the DNC, obviously working with the campaign. But I'm curious as to how the DNC on the inside feels about this race just a few weeks out, number one. And furthermore, curious as to how the DNC is deciding where to put its resources. We keep hearing about these swing states, but I want to ask a resource question which leads directly to understanding better where it is that you all think you need to be focusing. We'll talk about that part when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From the Mert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I get it. The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high.
Kamala Harris's economic plan is focused on lowering costs for families, so you can keep more of your paycheck. That starts with the cost of housing. For first-time homebuyers, she's offering $25,000 in down payment assistance. To build wealth, her plan offers up to $50,000 in new startup tax deductions. This is exactly how we can build generational wealth and strengthen our community, so we can get the chance to do more than just get by, but to get ahead.
You work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it. As president, I'll make that my top priority.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
Tavis Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to
scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up.
Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone, and should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Vincia Berry, who I'm pleased to have on this program. She's the political director for the DNC, who better to check in with just a few weeks out from the election than the person running politics inside the DNC. So to that point, broadly speaking, or you can be more specific for that matter, how's the DNC feeling at this point? What's it like inside the building? A few weeks away from Election Day. And then I want to talk about where you all are looking, where you're focusing, where you're paying attention in terms of these swing states.
Yes. And in terms of feeling, I mean, we're just really, really focused on working. A lot of our team at headquarters is deploying to the states to get on the ground, to talk to voters, to support the efforts of getting out the vote. And we are also just making sure that we're supporting the campaign and Democrats up and down the ticket. And so you mentioned some of the infrastructure pieces and what that looks like for us. We just recently rolled out our SPIF grants, which we basically, like, our role is supporting state parties year round so that Democrats up and down the ticket, because we need to make sure that we elect Vice President Harris as our next president, but we also need to make sure that we give her a Congress so that we can pass legislation and not have to deal with the political games that are currently being played with the American people's lives and policy path forward. And that goes from the state houses, what we're seeing happening in the states, to all the way down to county elections, all the way down to school board elections, and making sure that we are equipping people with the tools that they need to have a coordinated campaign. So this means making sure that there's data directors on the ground, that there's voter protection directors to protect everybody's sacred right to vote at a time where Republicans are trying to, quite frankly, subvert elections and deny people access to the ballot box. And then organizers, messaging, comms, all of that. It is a full court press, and we are working around the clock to make sure that we are reaching voters to ask for their vote.
When we come forward in our remaining moments with Vincia Berry, I want to ask her, to the point she's making now, whether or not the DNC has grave concerns, any concerns about voter suppression. She mentions it, but I'm really curious as to how concerned they are about that actually, and what they're preparing to do to deal with that the day of and the day after voter suppression, that is. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
Standing up for everyday Americans is at the very foundation of who Kamala Harris is. Raised in a middle-class home by a working mother who instilled in her a passion for justice and equality. That's why when Kamala Harris became district attorney, she stood up for our kids, keeping them safe by prosecuting sex offenders. She also pioneered a program to give nonviolent drug offenders a second chance. As president, Kamala Harris will continue the fight for everyday Americans. She's already lowered the cost of your health insurance and medications. Insulin is now capped at $35 for seniors. But there's more to do, because mortgages, rents, groceries, and utility bills are still too high. Harris's plan to fix it? Build more homes to lower prices and make the wealthy and billionaires pay their fair share so we get a break. All her life, Kamala Harris has been standing up for us, and she doesn't plan to stop anytime soon.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for president.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminding you that we keep us safe. Pro Football Hall of Famer and urban peace pioneer Jim Brown believed in just that. So he founded the Amera I Can Foundation for Social Change in 1988, focusing on at-risk and high-risk youth in underserved schools and juvenile detention facilities, as well as adult incarceration and reentry initiatives. The core of the Amera I Can program is its 15-chapter life skills curriculum. Mastery of these skills allows individuals to meet their academic potential, conform their behavior to acceptable societal standards, and improve the quality of their lives by equipping them with what they need to confidently and successfully contribute to society. Today, the foundation is led by its president, Monique Brown, who has been actively involved in the organization for more than 25 years. The Amera I Can Foundation continues its work in memory of its founder, actor, philanthropist, and NFL legend Jim Brown. To get involved or make a donation, please visit AmeriCanCommunity.partners. That's AmeriCanCommunity.partners. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Febreze. As a rideshare driver, I love keeping my car smelling fresh and clean. So when I'm driving, I only trust new Febreze car vent clips, now with 3 times greater scent control, because it's that little touch that sets me apart. I can turn the intensity down for subtle freshness, or I can turn it up for when I want lots of scent. So whether it's set to low, medium, or high, with new Febreze car, I know my car's going to smell amazing, which keeps my driver rating right where it belongs. Picking up Oscar!
Sometimes he fails at fitting in.
But we're okay with that.
You're inside the Tavis Smiley Show.
This is the Tavis Smiley Show, and I'm glad to have you tuned in. Our guest is Brencia Berry, who is the political director for the Democratic National Committee. So I got just a few minutes left with you. I want to follow what you said moments ago about voter suppression. Clearly, this is a very real issue in our country, and you're absolutely right about the fact Republicans have done everything they can to make it easier, make it more difficult, rather, not easier, more difficult to vote. And that's another conversation we could have about why we make it so difficult to vote in this country to begin with. That's another conversation for another day. But on this day, in this conversation, how concerned is the DNC about that, and what are you all preparing to do on the day of and the day after regarding the issue of voter suppression?
Yeah, well, we have been working since 2021, right, to build out our iwillvote.com infrastructure to support this very moment. As soon as when somebody tells you who they are, we have to believe them. And we saw in January of 2021 that Republicans were playing in a whole new playing field when it comes to elections and quite just denying elections. And Trump and Republicans have said, they've talked about dictatorships, they've talked about people not having to vote again after they're elected, and lastly, not accepting the outcomes of a free and fair election. So we started to invest into our tech and tools to make sure that we are making it easier for voters, that we are giving them what they need to access all of the information, whether it's how to register, polling locations, requirements for mail-in ballots and early ballots. It directs users to expert help from teams and partners on the ground when necessary. So people listening, you can text VOTE to 70888 or send your friends and family to iwillvote.com so they can make a plan to vote and get all this information. Our strategy is to make sure that we are getting every single person what they need to vote who is able to. And that is our work and our goal, and we've made significant investments into that on the ground and nationally.
Her name is Brencia Berry. She's political director for the Democratic National Committee. Good to have you on. All the best to you. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. 2 hours in front of us, 2 great hours in front of us. We started out strong today with Latifah Simon. That was an amazing conversation. And we push toward the second hour now. We will commence hour 2 talking with Quentin James. He is the founding president of the Collective PAC, and they just announced today, literally, a $4 million effort to mobilize black voters, and so black male voters in particular. Been so much conversation, as you well know, about black male voters and what they're going to do in this election and whether Trump is going to siphon some of them off. Here they come now, though. The Collective PAC with a $4 million effort jumping off today to mobilize black male voters. Look forward to talk to Quentin James about that in just a moment. Following Quentin James in our second hour, we'll talk to Christopher Sebastian Parker. You know him. He's our resident black pollster, and so he has some new polling data, black polling data, as it relates to Kamala Harris's chances of pulling off the black vote, and she's going to need a huge turnout come November, so we'll talk to Christopher Sebastian Parker about that as well in our second hour. And then our third hour, it's the new LeBron James Netflix film called Rezball. We'll talk to Dallas Goldtooth about that. So, again, 2 great hours in front of us. You're listening, and I'm glad about it, to Tavis Smiley.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Ray Harris, and here's the latest from